Today on What Went Wrong, to film school or not to film school. Hi, I'm Brett Mauser, and today joining with us are two of my students. But one is from one area, being the academic, actually went to school and, sat in my classes and got lectured to.
Yes.
And the other practical application started very young on the sets and got yelled at.
And lectured. There were
And
lectures.
lectured.
They're mixed into the yelling.
I think
but
the lectures more came from your dad, though. I would bitch about, and then your dad would probably lecture.
It's all the same. It's still a lecture. It's just indirect.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the differences between those today, and how you, since you've come on as a PA a little bit, and so you might be able to have a little bit of a different insight in terms of the balance of the two, but I think there's value in both of these aspects. To start off, tell us a little bit about the first day that you had a class with me.
Oh, you know what? The first day I had a class, it wasn't with you, but you were there because the other instructor wasn't there for that first week or something. And you were talking about so much different things, and you were just talking about your stuff that you had done. And I was like, oh, this is going to be cool. And then you weren't the instructor. We had somebody else. It was not exciting. It was totally different. I was like, this guy that's teaching us different than the way the other guy seemed like. The other guy seemed cool. Like you seemed more passionate about it than the other dude that was teaching us. So then when I finally got you for a real, I finally had you for a class, I was like, these are cool. These are cool because this guy is doing it and he's teaching us how to do it. Where some other people, they never showed you anything of their own. It's just like they were just there to teach, and like they didn't have the same passion that you had about it, So it was once we got a class with you and I saw how much you liked and loved doing this stuff, it was just like, yeah, this is somebody I want to learn from. I even I didn't quit school entirely, but there was one where I was going to have that instructor for 3 of the 4 classes, and I dropped it to one class because I was like, I don't want to go to this guy's film school. I was like, I want to learn from multiple people because I don't want to learn this guy's way because he doesn't seem like it was like his way was the right way, and I feel like film is very subjective, and you got to learn from a lot of different people. You can't just watch one dude, Plus, you got to make it your own thing at the end.
When your dad first dragged you to set, and doesn't have to be necessarily mine, but just first time you were dragged to a set, do you remember that experience?
So the first set that I remember clearly, I'm pretty sure it's the first movie I worked on, and he'll chime up if
I'm
it's
sure
true
he
or not,
will.
was Soccer Mom. I think I was just an extra because they wanted him for something. And he got typecast as a neo-Nazi. Bald head. Son named
Bald head, son named Adolf. I don't know how they could get that. I don't know
I
how
don't know where
they
they
could
got
get
that
that
idea
confusion.
from. And we were there, and they ended up needing a kid for a scene. A kid my age. I was 7.
Yes.
7. And I had to act sad. I don't remember that day very much, but I remember towards the end they're doing one of the final scenes in the movie. And she went to stab him with a knife, and she ended up dropping it. I'm not going to spoil the movie because I don't remember the movie to spoil it. She ended up dropping it. I went, it'd be really cool if when she drops it, you see it twirl in the air and then it lands point in the ground. Because it's cheesy, it's funny. It's kind of cool. And they went, that's a really good idea. And that also sprung my love of being behind the camera. Because being in front of the camera is a lot of fun, but I think it's more fun to be behind it, personally, at least.
Now, as an instructor, I mean, when I first started, decided I first was going to be a magician in high school, and then I decided that didn't really pay very well. So I decided to do something else doesn't pay very well. That was film. But you always get told, you gotta have a fallback. You gotta have plan B. So even then, even back in high school, I wanted to be a teacher. That was gonna be my fallback. If I can't do film, can't do magic, then I'll be a teacher. So I personally enjoy watching or watching people come up and learning the process. But there's also that hope that there's always, hey, I want to see them make their film. I want to see them, start doing their own films and see what they create. And kind of, maybe it's the Yoda in me, wanting to see, Darth Vader go out, my Luke Skywalker go out and slay Darth Vader. So that's why I will take a lot of the extra time. There's one student that I think I've mentioned it once before, but came into my senior class and didn't know anything. And I was like, how did you get here? And I took the time to have him come, after class and take those, and try to catch him up the best I could in the amount of time that we had. So education has always been very important to me, and I want people to learn not just filmmaking, which is why I think I'll break out in tangents.
Definitely.
I think one time we started talking about Back to the Future in one of my classes, and 5 or 10 minutes later, we're talking about string theory.
Yeah, you'd go off on a different subject.
I know one time somebody was talking about financing movies and how you find the money and how much money you should put into a movie. And 10 minutes later, I'm talking about compound interest. And if you start off with that money that you're going to put into your movie, what that could be in 15 years, and then you can make 17 of those movies.
Yep, I remember that one.
Even went in and found the compound interest calculator online and said, look, if you have $5,000 and you put $100 in a month, this is what you'll have in 15 years. So but I also try to walk that line where I'm not preaching too much or lecturing too much. But then there are times where I've had to get a little stern. I've had some students talk back sometimes before, and have had to knock them down a couple pegs. And a couple quarters later, they'd see me in the hall and they'd thank me. I'm sorry, I was being a dick. Yeah, you were. But of course, I think a lot of my past experience and my bitterness helps with that. So when you're on somebody else's film, having not come from this is the way you're supposed to do it school, and just seeing it happen, seeing how it comes together, do you see a lack of bitterness or a stronger bitterness in you towards the film industry? Or
So I wouldn't say my bitterness is towards the industry. I think it's more towards
individual people
or anyone who goes, but that's not my job. And I don't mean like in a joking manner. I mean people who look at you and go, but wait, I can't do that. That's not my job. What do you mean you can't do it? I've done this before. I can do it right now in front of you. But that's not your job. But I'm on the set. Everything is my job. As long as it gets done, then it's done. There's no waiting 3 hours for someone else to walk up and move a piece of paper. That's a waste of time. Just move it yourself. It's a piece of paper. But I think part of that was growing up on independent film sets in general, but for the most part, your sets. Because you didn't care how it got done as long as it got done and it was at least vaguely legal. I said vaguely.
I'd have a
That means legal.
I'd have a wide berth.
As long as you didn't see it happen, it was legal. No one told you. It's fine.
Plausible deniability. I think that was probably one of the first words you learned.
Yeah.
It was up there. But I won't say it makes me better. I mean, maybe cautious would be a better word. Because I will go on somewhere and go, what are they going to ask? And then, I think I said in a previous episode or later episode or how the hell it works, I don't know. There's times when I've predicted what you need just because I've worked with you so closely for almost too long. Not as long as a lot of people, but getting there. And I don't know. It's just being able to do it, I think, makes a lot of difference to me. And necessarily not knowing the proper way, but knowing how you want it done.
And that's something that every
that's the
director
proper way on set.
likes.
I mean,
Yeah, because every set's going to be different anyway.
yeah.
Now, from your standpoint, I mean, you had made a couple films before you did anything, you know, and you know, you'd even admit yourself. Well, films is kind of a loose word, but before you came to the film school, you know, you played around, farted around, same way I did.
Yeah, yeah.
But then you went to film school, and now you're coming out and you're getting practical real world experience on that and seeing the way things really are on a set. How do you feel about the difference between the two? Do you think film schools prepare you for that, or do you any disservice, or do you think it's just you still can adapt and are okay when you hit the real world and are still able to use some of that knowledge from film school? But if you're not able to adapt and you just go into one of those real world sets and go, well, that's not the way I learned it in film school, is that going to help you or hurt you?
I would use it more like the adapting part. Like you get yourself a background on it, and just like I was saying, it's just like that's not you're getting the basics, you're getting the course, and you're taking classes, kind of like a workout program. You're gonna go out there, you start exercising. You just have to start using that knowledge, or it's just gonna fade away. But I think you could make a film without film school. But I think if you have film school, you have a little bit more structure on that. You gotta have a little more of a map. But also, I think sometimes that makes you think. Sometimes you overthink things. You're like, oh, wait, this needs to be just like this. This light has to be just like this. Sometimes I think it might slow you down a little bit too. But you just gotta find the best of both worlds out of that. Just the film school, I think it does help. I mean, I have a degree with it now, but I want to try to make money with that. But I just want to make movies, and learning in school or out of school, as long as you're learning, either ways, I think is going to help you. It made me get out there and work. You got assignments, you got to go out there and do stuff. Especially a person like me who's like, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it later. Like, you have a timeline, you got to get some stuff done, you got to get out there. And then you have a whole group of people trying to do the same thing. So I worked on a lot of different film sets with everybody and kind of try to learn from them all. And I'd kind of also somewhat use that as an excuse too, be like, I was helping them do their thing. I didn't have time to do my, but I did learn on everybody's sets, just being out there, learning. Oh, this guy really does this real good. Or this guy does this good. Or like for your stuff, you're organized. You have your shot list. You got it all. Like the film school gives you everything. Tells you how to do it, how you make your production book, your pre-production planning. Tells you how to do everything. Even the other instructor who was by the book, he did give us stuff like, hey, when you go out, check your location, look for this, look for that, look for power, think about sounds, think about things that a school lets out, and all these kids are going to be making noise at a certain time. So all that information is there. You just have to apply it all. So I think you could be able to do both without film school or with film school. You just have a little bit more knowledge when you first go out with school.
I'd say that's true. You start with more knowledge, but I also think, like you're saying, it might hold you back a little bit because you go, well, this is how it should be, or I know it needs to be done this way, and then you get stuck in that run of thinking
this way.
that it has to be this way.
Yeah, I agree with that totally.
Yeah, that was when I was working on somebody else's film. They had a DP, director of photography, not double penetration. Wasn't that kind of movie.
Oh, I went to film school, so I wasn't thinking that way.
but there was a lighting issue, and he was like, oh, it's just too bright. And I was like, well, just put a damn ND filter on it. He's like, oh, well, I read the book, and book says we're not supposed to do that. Continued on the rest of the day, and then the next day, and I actually told Matt, because it was his film, and I pulled him aside. I said, Matt, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to be a dick in a moment, and I normally don't do this, but in this particular case, I have to. And I said, all right, do what you got to do, and called the DP over. I said, so Matt and I sat down with the guy, and I pulled out my resume, 5 pages long, and slid it across. Everything from music videos to documentaries and everything. I said, I've been doing this for long I've got international distribution over, at this point it was over 20 feature films, 50 music videos, over 100 commercials, both network and local. Don't ever tell me what the book says. He quit that day and never came back.
What if it's from
How do you come back from that? He did what was best for him in that case. I mean,
what if it's from your book?
Well, my book is saying don't let my what's the thing? The first thing that in my paragraph is says, "Hey, take what you want from here, but don't take it as gospel."
I just remember Goldfish Glow.
Yeah, asshole. So the moral of the story being, there are both ways to do it. You've got the Bill Gates of the world that never went, that dropped out or didn't go to school and became, James Bond villains. Yeah. But outside of that, choose your own road. I don't think you would want to go and do that whole.
So I've considered film school quite a bit, but I'm not going to do it because I don't like the school environment in general. I mean, that's one of the reasons I didn't go to college at all. The environment's just not something I would prosper in, so it'd be a waste of money, and I don't like wasting money.
No, that's good to be able to identify, things that aren't for you. Not everybody has to go to college, and that's a big myth that is propagated up over the last several decades, that you have to do this to be go to college to succeed, and that's not the truth.
Yeah. To build on what you said about the listen for sounds and lighting power outlets, I mean, I learned all the same stuff just in real time. Yeah. It's you learn the same
from experience rather than somebody else.
Well, it was learning from where the is power outlet. What do you mean there's no power outlet? I thought you just looked at the set. I did. It matched what you wanted. There's no power. And we run an extension cable for 3,000 feet, roughly, give or take, depending on what we need.
Well, I also say that maybe being from film school is still going to hamper you, because you'll learn practically, and you'll learn, oh, don't do this because this happens. And then there are people that go to film school, and the instructor will say, well, don't do this because this will happen. And how many students go, you don't know me, and then go out and they do the same shit, have the problem, come back going, yeah, you were right.
I guess you do know me. My bad.
The whole stuff about doing and failing and learning is actually true. You do have to go out and do it and fail at it.
Oh, yeah, because I can't tell the number of times I'll tell people, this is what you do this, do that, do this. Any questions? No. All right, come back up and I'll tell you, I'll say I told you so.
I'll point out what I was right.
Which is very, very common. So, any last thoughts on film school versus doing it practically?
You both said you don't need film school. It helps, but you don't need it. You can get out there, do it. Film is pretty much you're watching homework all the time when you watch a movie or you watch a show. You just see how they do it and try to do it like they did it if you're trying to emulate somebody,
Or you look at it and go, that's stupid. I want to do it this way instead.
I don't want to do it that way. Yeah, just watch all the stuff that somebody else is doing and go try to recreate it. And then eventually you're going to make your own style. Hopefully you make your own style, and that's what's going to separate you from just being the same old thing as everybody else.
So we hope you'll continue watching What Went Wrong, because after this episode, I will probably no longer have a job at college.